If you're trying to improve yourself, become a better person, have a better life, you may be wondering, how do you completely transform into a new person? Well, that is what this video is all about. I'm going to share with you what I've learned over many years of transforming myself and also leading other people through the process of personal transformation. Let's go. Here's the thing about transformation that I didn't understand when I first started doing it, which is that we can't really transform from the outside in. Sometimes we try. We want to change how we look and think that it's going to change who we really are. And what I've discovered over the years is that we need to go inward and we need to go deep in order to have true personal transformation and actually become a new person. And that's because our sense of self is at the very core of us. It's our identity. How we see ourselves ultimately impacts how everyone sees us, how the world organizes around us. So if, for example, we have a self-concept that says, I am a loser, or I am always wrong, or I'm not good enough, or I can't do anything right, or if we have any of those real deep-seated patterns and stories and beliefs about ourselves, then it's really hard to transform and have a different life experience. So we need to go into the core operating system of who we really are and transform from the inside out. So this is obviously not everything that I've learned in a 12-minute or 15-minute video. Who knows how long this will be. But these are some of the biggest and most important root level changes that we can instigate in our lives. The first, in order to do any of this, I would say the most important thing to start with is to truly get to the why of what you want, why you want to change. What is it that's sparking this change? And there's two things to consider. There's, what are you moving away from? What is it that you no longer want in your life? What's the experience that you're wanting to avoid, that you want to not have anymore? Perhaps you're having an experience of lack of love, or not being able to have a sustained relationship with somebody, or that you're having a lot of fighting or a lot of negativity, right? What's the experience that you're moving away from? That's really beneficial to understand and to know. And it cannot be the sole inspiration for true lasting identity change, in my belief. Because I believe that if we're moving away from something, that which we resist persists, right? So we don't want to orient our entire life around what we don't want. We need to also look at, what are we creating? What is the possibility? What is the desired next thing? What is the desired next version of you? What's the desired life? How do you want to live? What do you want to experience? So that's step one, is connecting to desire, the desire to move away from and the desire to move toward. And specifically inside of that, what's available on the other side of that transformation? What is it that's calling you? What experience of life is it that you want to have? The second thing, and this is probably one of the hardest things to do, in my opinion, by yourself. I feel like this piece really requires a person or people around you to serve as mirrors. The next piece is to identify what's in the way, what's actually creating that experience that you don't want anymore. Because many, many times, if not always, that which we're experiencing is our creation. Many, many times, whether it's conscious or subconscious, we're creating what we're experiencing. And I know that doesn't feel really good, and there are going to be people probably who hear this video and disagree with this part. And I get that. This is a very, I'm going to call it a quantum perspective on life, which is that somehow we are creating what we have. Doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It doesn't mean that, we're to blame necessarily, but that if we can take responsibility for what we're creating, for the experience we're having, then that also gives us the empowerment to shift it. So the next step is really to take ownership and accountability and to address, how is it that you're creating your own life? There's a great book that I love called Existential Kink And of course, now that I need it, the name of the author is escaping me, but if you Google existential kink, you'll find it. And the whole book is exercises and conversations about how we create everything we experience. And at the root of it, if we can just take responsibility and basically say, all right, I choose what I've created. I choose my life. I choose everything in it. And from that place of accepting it and choosing it, okay, what do I want to create next? That gives us the empowerment to create what's next. And like I said, it can be very helpful at this juncture to have a coach, a mentor, people around you who can help you lovingly, truthfully share with you what they see about how you are contributing to the patterns in your life. Let's just use a really obvious example. If you're not feeling healthy and strong and vibrant, right? Well, what are you eating? What are you putting in your body? What kind of choices are you making day in and day out about how you treat yourself, right? And so having a mentor or coach can shine some light to those areas that we might want to resist or avoid. The next thing that I would say is really powerful is to identify the person that you're wanting to become. Clarify who that person is. What does he or she want out of life? How does she operate? What are her or his values, right? What is the lifestyle that they want to lead? And really tapping into that vision for what you want. Not just what you want to experience, but what kind of person would have that experience? Right? So for example, if what you want is to have a loving relationship, then who you would need to be is a deeply loving person, right? To start with. So what are the characteristics of the person that would have the life that you want? If you want to have health and vibrancy, what are the characteristics? How does a healthy person operate? How do they show up? And then this is the part where it gets this is where we move out of that concept and more into the embodiment, starting to be the person, right? Like not just do the things that they would do. All right, it's one thing to say, for example, I'm going to quit smoking, right? That's you, the smoker, stopping the activity that makes you a smoker. So let's say I have a self-concept of I'm a smoker and I need to quit smoking, so I need to stop doing this activity. From that perspective, it can be very hard versus really adopting the identity and the persona of I am a non-smoker. Or alternatively, to use one of our earlier examples, I am a deeply loving and caring partner, right? And so really shifting the self-identification, I am. So using these I am statements can be really, really powerful. By the way, if you're getting value from this video, if you like this video, like the content that I bring, please like this video, please subscribe to my channel. The next thing is to create some sort of personal improvement, personal transformation plan. There are kind of two components that I think of when I think of creating a plan. I do this with business, I do this in personal development and everything. The first are, what are the projects of the plan? What are the projects that need to be undertaken, right? A project might be, if you're shifting your identity, part of that project might be, well, the person that I want to be a more successful professional. Well, maybe a more successful professional would dress the part and would look more professional. All right, so maybe a project that's associated with that way of being would be to clean out your closet and buy a couple of suits or buy, a couple of new outfits that align with this new identity, right? So that's a project. Secondly, there are activities. And this is where I think the rubber really meets the road with personal transformation. The activities or the habits are the ongoing things that you do day in, day out that solidify the new identity, because it's way more powerful to shift the identity. It's a lot less likely that you'll go back to being the old version, right? So what are the activities? If you're committing to being a deeply loving and caring partner in a loving and caring relationship, what are some activities that a loving and caring person would do? Well, that person might come home every day and ask the other person, how was your day today? Please tell me all about it. Or they might remember birthdays and anniversaries, right? What would a deeply loving and caring person do? Maybe they would listen instead of argue when somebody wants to share something. So these are the ongoing activities. So I encourage you to identify what are the activities of something like this and practice those every single day, every single week, month in, month out. And then finally, but not finally, because this is just enough for one YouTube video, but there's so much more to this topic. And I have a lot of videos, by the way, on personal development. I highly recommend checking out some of those videos. We're gonna go ahead and put a link to one of my personal development libraries or playlists. But the last thing, and one of the biggest topics, is to address the underlying subconscious issues at play, right? These are things that might come from childhood. They might come from family dynamics, from trauma, wounding, right? And all of us, no matter how great of a childhood we had certain instances, certain moments, certain experiences that were difficult and challenging. And during those experiences, we often make up a story about the way life is. So maybe we got bullied at school and we made up a story that when we stand out, people attack us, so we don't want to stand out, which might be preventing you from going after that amazing promotion that you really want, right? So these are the subconscious factors that we're sometimes not even aware of. We might not realize that the bullying from second grade is having this impact on us now. And so for that, I highly recommend working with some sort of coach or therapist, particularly hypnosis. I love hypnosis as a strategy for addressing deep-seated underlying triggers and wounds and patterns. I also work with psychosynthesis coaches. These are the coaches that I hire to work with my clients to get at some of these deeper unconscious layers. So I don't think you can have true, real identity transformation without diving into these root causes and these root stories. I hope that this was valuable for you. And if it was, if you're a coach, a speaker, a consultant, someone who's both interested in building and growing your business and in personal transformation, then you may be a right fit for me to help you build and grow your business. If you're interested in learning more about that, check out superstarbusinessbreakthrough.com.